Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So myself Dr. Anil Terdal, working as an assistant professor, Department of Chemistry, JSS Arts, Science and Commerce College Gokak, which is the college is affiliated to Rani Chennamma University Belagavi. So in the last video, we started discussing on electrogravimetry concept. So in the electrogravimetry concept, we have discussed little bit on introduction to gravimetry, and after that, how these gravimetric methods are classified. We discussed in detail about this. So, what are the gravimetric techniques which are classified, main classifications with gravimetry, and further the specific technique we discussed a little. So that is electrogravimetry. So in that we have seen the basics on electrogravimetry and principles of the electrogravimetry. So now we will move on to how this electrogravimetric technique is working, or what are the laws which are really required for the electrogrammetric method. So here the electrogrammetry, I will repeat the electrogrammetric principle, the method, electrogrammetric method principle. So in this method, the analyte, usually a metal based analyte, which is being determined through the electrolytic deposition onto a suitable electrode. The electrode is generally known as working electrode under controlled experimental conditions. So in the electrogravimetric method, filtration is not required, and under optimum parameters, the co-deposition of two metals can be avoided. So here it's very simple. So how we can easily determine the metal based analyte just by electrolytic deposition of the analyte onto the suitable electrode or onto a working electrode. So it's very simple. Once we can deposit the metal based analyte onto the surface of working electrode, then we can easily determine how much amount of metal based analyte present in the given solution or given mixture. So this can be done by using electrogrammetry or by applying the potential. By applying the potential, we can easily do the electrolytic deposition. So there are laws which can govern by this electrolytic deposition or electrolytic electrodeposition we can call. So what are those laws? The first law is Ohm's law, and there are two more laws, that is Faraday's laws of electrolysis, Faraday's first law and Faraday's second law. So let us discuss one by one. So as we know very well about the Ohm's law, Ohm's law meaning, so it's a simply current is directly proportional to the potential, or we can say voltage, or we can also say electromotive force, that we can indicate it as E. You can see here. So E indicated, or E stands for electromotive force, and this current is also inversely proportional to or indirectly proportional to the resistance. So that is I is equal to E by R. This is the Ohm's law, and this is a very basic law. So as we know already. So next there are two laws on electrolysis. The first one is Faraday's first law. So what the Faraday's first law states: the amount of substance liberated or dissolved at the electrode. So see here, so this is the electrode, that is anode. So it's impure copper. So what it states: the amount of substance liberated or dissolved at the electrode of a cell are directly proportional to the quantity of the electricity which is passes through the solution. So the amount of the substance which is liberated or dissolved into the solution. For example, here the copper sulfate solution, and here is impure copper, and this impure copper is dissolving in the copper sulfate solution, the same sulfate solution. So which is, so how much this is liberated or how much it is dissolved in the solution. So this copper is, which is directly proportional to the quantity of the electricity passed through the solution. So this is a Faraday's first law. And what the second law indicates, this is a very important law which is required, which on this the second law is the basics of electrogravimetry. So now, so what it states: the amount of substance, or we can say different substance, liberated or dissolved by the same quantity of electricity are proportional to their relative atomic masses divided by number of electrons involved in the respective electrode process. So here the amount of difference, here we have only one substance which is going to dissolve at one electrode, and the other electrode which is going to deposit it on the other electrode, pure copper electrode. One electrode is dissolving or liberating, and other electrode is depositing. The same amount is depositing, which is directly proportional to the quantity of electricity passed through the solution. That what says the Faraday's first law states. So in the second law, you just do whatever we are doing in the one cell. You just do the series of cells. Let's say, for example, one cell containing copper sulfate solution, second cell containing silver nitrate solution, and third cell containing nickel chloride solution, and put all the electrodes and make it a series and connect it in terms of series. The cells are connected in a series way, and then pass the electric current or electricity. You just pass the electricity to all the cells, and then see how much amount of substance which is liberated or dissolved in the given solutions, or here the solutions. So that is what which is proportional to their relative atomic masses divided by number of electrons involved in the respective electrode processes. So if you will understand more about this by taking an this example. For example, we have a two for example we have two cells. So one cell containing copper sulfate solution and second cell containing silver nitrate solution. So what will happen, the moment you pass the same electric current to both of the cells, and then what will happen, the amount of copper in this cell, that is A stands for anode, C stands for cathode, and the amount of copper which is dissolved here, and the same amount of copper which is depositing at the cathode. And similarly, the amount of silver which is liberated at anode is same amount of silver which is deposited at the cathode. So here, what we can say here, the Faraday's second law, that when a given current is passed in a series through solution containing copper sulfate and silver nitrate respectively, then weights of the copper here at cathode and the silver at cathode which is deposited in a given time will be the ratio of their atomic mass divided by number of electrons involved in the electrode processes. For example, the copper which is first, the elemental copper, impure copper which is dissolved or liberated at anode, and how it is going to do once you apply the electric potential. So this is going to oxidize to copper plus 2, and at cathode what is happening, which is the same copper plus 2 is depositing by reducing. So this means that it is oxidizing to copper plus 2, and then again it is reduced to copper 0. So this means the number of electrons involved here is 2, because the oxidation state, or I can say the charge of the copper is plus 2. So hence the atomic, how much it is going to deposit, we can easily calculate it. So now that is the atomic mass of the copper divided by number of electrons transferred in the electrode process, or the charge of the copper, that is 2, divide that what, 63.55 is the atomic mass, divided by 2, number of two electrons are 2. So this much amount of copper is deposited on the surface of cathode, that is electrode cathode. And then if you take the silver, so silver, as silver is like elemental silver is 0, once it is dissolved, so it becomes Ag plus. Once it is again deposited at cathode, so it is dissolving or liberating at anode, and then it is depositing on the cathode from Ag plus 1 to Ag plus 0. So that's what here, the number of electrons involved during the electrode process is 1. So the mass, what is that? So the atomic mass of the silver is 107.87 divided by 1. 1 is number of electrons which are involved in the electrode process. So here 2 indicates copper plus 2. Number of electrons involved in the electrode process are 2. So this is very simple. How much copper is deposited, or how much copper is liberated at anode, or how much copper is deposited at cathode, we can easily calculate by simply by knowing the charge of the metal ions. So this is about Faraday's first law and second law. So we have some terms used in the electrogrammetry. The term is first term is voltaic cell or galvanic cell. So this is very interesting. So here the cell consists of two electrodes. You can see one is anode and other is cathode. So usually at the cathode reduction takes place and oxidation takes place at anode. Well, so these two electrodes and one or more solutions in an appropriate container. So one or more solution in an appropriate container. You can see there are two containers with a appropriate solution. If the cell can furnish electric energy to an external system, is called voltaic or galvanic cell. The chemical energy in this voltaic cell, the chemical energy is converted more or less completely to electrical energy, but some of the energy may be dissipated as heat. So this is called voltaic cell. In the voltaic cell, the chemical energy is converted more or less completely to electrical energy. That's what you can see. So bulb is glowing here just by converting the chemical energy to the electrical energy. So here is the galvanic cell. So let us see what you mean by the electrolytic cell. So if the electric energy is supplied from an external source, so you can see here a battery. We are just supplying the electrical energy from an external source. The cell through which it flows, this is a cell through which it flows, is termed an electrolytic cell. So this is the external source. The cell, this is the cell through which it flows, is termed as electrolytic cell. And the Faraday's law account for the material changes at the electrodes. At a given cell may function at one time as a galvanic cell and at another time as an electrolytic cell. So this is a typical example of this kind of uh, one time it is galvanic cell acting as a galvanic cell and other time it is acting as electrolytic cell. The typical example is lead accumulator or storage cell. So you understand now with the very difference between the galvanic cell and the electrolytic cell is electrolytic cell requires the external electrical energy through which uh, uh, the cell through which it flows termed as, and that cell is termed as electrolytic cell. But in the term in terms of galvanic or voltaic cell, so this consisting of electrodes in series of solution or maybe one or two solutions, so where the cell can furnish electrical energy to an external system is called voltaic cell. So that you can say the chemical energy is converted more or less completely to electrical energy. You can see you can easily see this analogy in the in this figure where the chemical energy is converted to the electrical energy. That's what the bulb is glowing. So well, so we'll see some other terms. So here cathode and anode, we have two more electrodes. Cathode, the cathode is an electrode at which the reduction occurs. So that is very clear. In an electrolytic cell, it is the electrode attached to the negative terminal of the source. So negative terminal of the source, which is attached, and since the electrons leave the source and enters the electrolysis cell, at that terminal, the cathode is positive terminal of a galvanic cell because such a cell accepts electron at this terminal. So what it says? It says the cathode is the electrode at which reduction occurs. First is at which it is reduction process is going to take place at the cathode. In the electrolytic cell, it is the electrode attached to negative terminal. So we can see in the electrolytic cell it is attached to negative terminal of the battery. Next, since the electron leave the source and enter the electrolysis cell at that terminal, the cathode is the positive terminal of the galvanic cell. So you can see here is a positive terminal of the galvanic cell because such cell accepts electrons at this terminal. So let us see what you mean by anode. The anode is the electrode at which oxidation occurs. It is the positive terminal of the electrolysis cell or negative terminal of the voltaic cell. Positive terminal of the electrolysis cell, you can see this one, and negative terminal of the voltaic here you can see negative terminal of the voltaic cell. This is very simple. So we just need to say the positive terminal of the electrolysis cell, big important, this is electrolysis cell, and negative terminal of the voltaic cell. So there are two more terms. One is a polarized electrode and other is a current density. Polarized electrode meaning the electrode is polarized if its potential deviates from the reversible or equilibrium value. Reversible or equilibrium value. An electrode is said to be depolarized by a substance if that substance lowers the amount of polarization. So it's very simple. The potential which deviates from the reversible or equilibrium value, and such electrode is polarized. Or if the substance is going to deviate the potential from its reversible or equilibrium value, and that substance is said to be the substance is going to be polarized the electrodes. and and if the substance is going to lowers that polarization, and that substance is to be depolarized substance. So here you understand what you mean by the polarized electrode and the depolarized electrode. The polarized is simply meaning, so it is with respect to the potential of the electrode. So potential is meaning once it is the electrode is always in the equilibrium or in the reversible equilibrium, reversible values or the equilibrium values of the potential. So once it deviates that equilibrium value, the potential values uh, are the reversible values, and such substances are said to be polarized substances, and the substance is said to be polarized the electrode. And if it is depolarized, then what will happen? So that substance is going to minimizes or the lowers the amount of polarization. And next is current density. The current density is defined as the current density is defined as the current per unit area of electrode surface. The current density is defined as the current per unit area of electrode surface. It is generally expressed in amperes per square centimeter. That is per square, you can also say decimeter of the electrode surface. Current density is simply defined as, so we are measuring the current. Once we have a current value, and just what you need to do is you just need to see how much surface area which is involved in the current in the current generation. So you just divided that current divided by the surface area, and then that you will get the current density. That would it says current per unit area of the electrode surface. Per unit area of the electrode surface, it is generally expressed in amperes per square centimeter or per square decimeter of the electrode surface. So these are the general terms which are used oftenly in electrogrammetric technique. So in the next video we will discuss more on this electrogrammetric method, like instrumentation and all. So today we have discussed the basic laws which are governed the the functions of the electrogrammetry. Those laws are Ohm's law, and there are two laws of electrolysis, that is Faraday's first law and Faraday's second law. In the Faraday's first law, the amount of the substance or amount of the metal based substance is liberated or dissolved at an electrode is directly proportional to the quantity of the electricity passed. The second, that is second law of the electrolysis, that is Faraday's second law. So here we have a series of the solution, and we are passing the solution we are passing the electric current to the all the solution, which is directly proportional to the atomic mass of the substance which is liberated or deposited at the electrodes, divided by number of electrons involved in the electrode process. So this is the Faraday's second law. So we know what do you mean by the voltaic cell, galvanic cell, and all, and electrolytic cell, of course. So there are some terms used here like cathode, anode, where the oxidation takes place, where reduction is going to taking place. And then what do you mean by the polarized electrode or depolarized electrode? Then how do we calculate the current density, or what do you mean by the current density? So we discussed all these things in this video. So in the next class we will see the further details about the electrogrammetry, specifically instrumentation of electrogrammetry, and then specific example how we can determine the, let's say for example, copper plus 2 ions present in the solution by using the electrogrammetric method. We will discuss in the later videos. Okay. If you have any doubts related to this video, so please text me in the comment box. So uh, thank you for your kind patience. Thank you.